Hey everybody, and welcome to our day early comics review video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and this is our part 2 of our special early comic review video. You may have seen our part 1 that we put out yesterday about the Marvel books that came out, but the DC stuff, there was so much of it. It was delayed today, but we have got a chance to read it, and now we're bringing you some of the biggest books, maybe all year.
Mm-hmm.
So remember to head on over to infinityflux.net right now, where you can order these books while supplies last. And ooh, these things are piping hot.
Yep.
They are not gonna last long, so don't miss out on any of this, especially the variants, that kind of stuff that there's less of is gonna go very, very fast. But yeah, let's commence with part 2, the Hush, It's Absolute edition.
The Absolute Hush Part 2 Shut Your Mouth edition. Yeah. So we are going to start with Batman number 158, which is part 1 of Hush 2.
We really, it was a back and forth on what we should start with, because Hush Part 2, Part 1, and Absolute Martian Manhunter. I mean, we had to do one first. That's the only reason we're doing this.
We sat here for probably about 5 minutes thinking, which one should we start with first? Because they are both amazing. We figured we would start with this one first because we've already had a couple Absolute books, but it's been 20-something years since we've had a Hush book. So this is from the original Hush creative team of Jeff Loeb, Jim Lee, Scott Williams, Alex Sinclair, I think, did the colors. Our buddy Richard Starkings did the lettering. Everybody is back.
Everybody, the team's all here.
The team is back, and we have a new story featuring Hush. Now, this issue is a little bit hard to talk about without spoiling some stuff.
It gets going right out the gate.
Oh yeah, this starts with a bang, right? And it starts with Batman responding to a crime that's being committed by the Joker, but he's puzzled by this particular crime because it's a crime that the Joker has committed before. And he says, well, Joker isn't one to repeat old jokes.
Yeah.
Why is he doing this exact same thing? And it's not just like robbing a bank. It's like very elaborate.
It's a very memorable crime that he's doing.
So he doesn't understand why he's doing that. I will say, I'm really trying hard not to spoil anything. I will say that he tracks down the Joker and stops the crime, but it doesn't end well for either Batman or the Joker. Mm-hmm. They both are in pretty bad places after it's all said and done. Batman recuperates, goes to search for the Joker later, and can't find the Joker himself, but he does find a clue as to where he may be. But when he follows that mystery, that trail, he may find a little bit more than what he bargained for. Meanwhile, we also see what happened with Joker after that crime, and it does involve Hush. Mm-hmm. And I don't really want to say too much more than that.
There's so much of this that, like, you have to experience it as it happened. There's some brutal moments in this, we'll say that feel very, like, almost like a Black Label type thing, and where the questions you'll be asking when this issue is over are big questions, like big, like, huge ramifications for the DC universe.
Yeah. This also is the first full appearance of a new villain named Silence. I say first full appearance because League of Comic Geeks says the first appearance was Justice League #1, Justice League Unlimited #1, because of the preview pages in the back. Yeah. But he's only on a picture on a wall on that one, so I'm not going to get into that debate. But you do see him in full in this, and he has a pretty cool. I don't know if it's a power, an ability, but he does something really neat. And we don't see much of him, but I want to see more of him. Like, he seems like he's going to be a big player in this.
It is a setup issue, not in a bad way, because there is a lot of pieces to set up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, like, on a chessboard, there's a lot of pieces there, and it's like, okay, how are they going to be moving?
Yeah, it's not like you see Hush, sitting at a table singing, "Here's my master plan. I'm gonna fight Batman and take out." It's nothing like that. Like, I don't really know what Hush's goal is yet, but Hush is in here a little, and he does he does have an interaction with Joker and that kind of stuff.
So are some other Bat family members.
That's right.
Which is so cool to see Jim Lee drawing characters like Nightwing and some others that are just like, this looks right.
And we know there will be some other Bat family characters later in the story. Maybe in part 3 or something.
The cover has Red Hood on it.
Okay.
Who
that's right.
doesn't make an appearance in this issue, but is very cool that this is going to be that kind of scope of a story that's going to affect the entire Bat family.
I think the solicitation said that Damian is going to be in it at one point. He's not in this, but this one is pretty more simple. Batman, Joker, Nightwing's in it a little bit. There's another Bat family character. Hush is in a little bit, so it's not too many characters. But yeah, a bit of a setup issue. Before I still don't know. I couldn't tell you what the full story is going to be. But I don't really care because it's awesome. And it looks great visually. Jim Lee is still, putting out some great work. There's great inks and colors. I mean, it visually looks like the original Hush.
Yeah.
Even though it's been 20-something years later, it still looks like Hush. Like if you put the Hush with this, it would just look like it just continues.
Yeah.
It looks exactly the same.
I also love that there is a lot of Detective Batman in this.
Yeah.
Which I am always happy to see him using some of his gadgets and that kind of stuff, analyzing clues, all of that's in here. And it's just, it's just fun to see that Batman.
Yeah.
This isn't the I'm hanging out with the Justice League. This is the down and dirty, grubby Gotham Batman.
Yeah. So Hush 2 Part 1, I feel like you could just say, oh, this is part of a new Hush story and it sells itself. So it's really cool.
And I just want to mention, because it is such a big deal, this is part of the main Batman run. This is not Hush 2 number 1.
Yeah.
This is part 1, but it is Batman issue 158.
Yeah, it is Batman number 158. It's right there in the corner.
And that's super important because so many stories that people think of as a unit, like Batman Year 1, that kind of stuff, happen within the pages of the ongoing Batman book.
Yeah, I mean, Hush did. It was 608 through 619,
Yeah, it is there to show you that, it doesn't take a mini series or something like that to tell big stories. That's why, you should always be reading the main Batman book because, stuff like this is the important. It's showing that, it doesn't have to be, oh, this is a big story, we've got to take it out and put it over here. Right. It's like, no, this is Batman and that's big enough.
Yeah, it's more old school where, back when they used to tell these giant story arcs within the pages of just the existing comic. I like that. And real quick, somebody too on the, I had a couple questions on my preview video that I made on TikTok, and a couple folks asked if you need to read Chip Zdarsky's run before this, since, Zdarsky's run just ended. You don't need to read anything before this except maybe the original Hush. I would maybe recommend reading the original Hush. Plus, it's just a good story, but that you might want to read that. But you don't have to have read Chip Zdarsky's run or James Tynion's run or Tom King's or anything like that. This is just a straight up sequel to the original Hush. That's all you need right there.
Yeah, it does feel almost like you're going back in time to the original Hush era of Batman.
Yeah. And actually, you're right, it does. Almost to the point where this could be set back then. But no, this is set today, but it just feels like it follows the original. So, with all that said, we have a bunch of different cool covers to show you. So, this is our A cover right there. We've got one Jim Lee cover right here. We have another Jim Lee cover right here. We have a really cool J. Scott Campbell cover with these characters, except for none of these characters really appear in this particular issue, except for Batman and Hush. We have this Gabriel Delato variant. That looks really nice. We have the one I pre-ordered, the Dan Mora cover. We have who does these ones? Tony Daniel. Yeah, the Tony Daniel basketball cover. I love that Batman's number is 27. That's so fitting.
Yeah.
We have a blank sketch variant. There is a Sean Gordon Murphy foil variant.
I think this one is a bit more expensive. I think this was the ones that's like $20 or something.
Oh, it says, it's actually $24.99.
$24.99.
Yeah. Oh, but it's a wraparound too.
It's a wraparound foil.
Wraparound foil by Sean Gordon Murphy. So yeah, good call.
I think it's limited, to a certain number.
Yeah, not an incentive, but it is still kind of priced like one a little bit. We have this Jim Lee Virgin foil variant. Are these? I mean, I'm sure these. This is $7.99.
Yeah.
Um, there is a Jim Lee Virgin non-foil variant, but like different coloring, so you can pick whichever one of those you want there.
That feels a little bit more Old Hush, the blue
Right.
sky.
Right.
I don't know, just it feels more like
Yeah.
that. For sure.
I don't remember what this is called. This is like the
It's a foil logo
it's a
variant.
a foil logo variant, and you can't see it, but if you could, this is not a solid white cover. It's actually embossed
Is
with
it glow in the dark? That's what I couldn't tell. Is it looks
actually,
like it has a little bit
I
of
think
that
it is
color.
Yeah, because like all the bats here
Mm-hmm.
have like a tint to them.
Yes.
And I wish you
It
could
says
see it.
Batman on it.
It says Batman Hush. It's embossed. Oh, you can. There you go. You can kind of see it right there. And yeah, you're right. I think this is glow in the dark, but we haven't tested it. There is a what was that gatefold one? There's one that's a gatefold cover.
It might have been one of your.
Oh, it's this one.
Oh yeah.
My bad. I need to. I should have shown you this too. So this one is actually a gatefold cover of Jim Lee's other covers. So yeah, if you get this one, you actually get all of Jim Lee's covers. You just can't see them all together. But yeah, so that one I should have shown that originally, and you get the regular A cover on the inside too. Whew, we're almost done with the covers. There's also a 1 in 25 Libra Mayho variant that we're selling for $9.99. There is the only other one we have right now is the 1 in 100 Jim Lee Virgin non-foil cover that we're selling for $49.99. We also do have some 1 in 10 variants, but again, these books just came in today, like just a few hours ago. Yeah. So we're actually still pricing some of our incentive covers. If you check the website, maybe later tonight or early tomorrow, some of those other ones should be out there. So I don't have a 1 in 10 to show you, but it will be there on the website.
I think it's on there now. We're just like putting the stickers on and all of that. Okay. But everything has been priced.
Oh,
but you gotta show.
Wait, there's one more.
There's a really big cover, guys.
Yeah, you won't believe how big this one is. So, this unfortunately is not available on the website. So if you're local to Chattanooga, come grab one. If you aren't, we can't mail these out, but maybe your shop will have one too. Yeah. It's just the A cover, but it's an 11 by 17.
It's comically large.
Yeah, so if you can see the difference, in size there. This one is $14.99, and it's nothing different on. I don't want to show on any interiors, but yeah, it's nothing different on the inside. It's just the regular comic, just like
ad on the back.
Actually, I do want to see this.
Yeah,
but
design.
I guess it's not. It's like a cardstock cover, obviously. But yeah, an 11 by 17 copy. If this one's too small for you, if you want like a big boy one, just had to show that one. But unfortunately, these are only available in store. But I couldn't not show it because it's so cool. And I am gonna go ahead and talk also, or I'm gonna kick it off anyway. But
Matt's just taking over the show. I'm just sitting over here, like an audience member.
Well, you read more today.
I also did. Yeah. I'll be taking over the show here in a moment.
Right. So we also are going to talk about. Oh yeah, my bad. Golly.
You're so off your game.
I know, so off my game today. So we also have Absolute Martian Manhunter #1. This is the second of the next 3 new Absolute books. So this is written by Dennis Camp, and the art is by Javier Rodriguez. And this is really cool. I will go ahead and say, this is the most different of all the Absolute books. This one is kind of the most out there a little bit, but that's not
it's the one, like, if you take the original character, it is the furthest from center.
That's right. So in this one, you do have John Jones right there on the cover. He's an FBI agent, and it is just John Jones. It's not like Jean Jones. It's John Jones. He's an FBI agent who's in the wrong place at the wrong time when somebody blows up the coffee shop that he's in, and he sends him to the hospital, right? Well, he wakes up in the hospital, and he seems to be able to hear the thoughts of everyone around him. But he doesn't realize that that's what's going on. He doesn't know that, like, I just heard what you said, but you didn't move your mouth. And through the course of the issue, we see him say things like, I wonder how I know that she doesn't like pickles on her sandwich. Yeah. I wonder how I know that her son did this or that. he doesn't realize he's hearing their thoughts. He just knows things about
He
people.
does seem very disassociated.
Yeah.
After that, like,
Yeah.
but he can hear the thoughts, and it's almost like, huh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't really phase him. He doesn't give a lot of emotional reaction to
Right.
any of this stuff.
Right.
Which, may play into the story.
Yeah. So, he gets out of the hospital. These weird things are starting to happen to him, but he doesn't realize it yet. And his wife wants him to stay home and rest because he just went through something traumatic. He is adamant about going back to work, where, his wife wants him to stay. And he's like, I don't know. It's the FBI. They don't like to give us time off. But when he goes to work, his boss is like, you should take some time off. And he's like, no, I'm good. The wife said it's fine. So and the reason he wants to go back to work is because he wants to investigate the bombing, even though his boss told him, you are not on this case. You're a victim. You're not the investigator. You're a witness. Yeah, you're too close to it, right? But he goes and does it anyway. Kind of tells some lies. Oh, I've got a doctor's appointment. But then he goes and investigates and he questions some people. And all along the way, as he, as his investigation goes further and further, he starts to things just get weirder and weirder. Like I said, he starts to hear more thoughts, and then there's also the visual component of this as well.
Which I feel like is the majority of the storytelling is in the visuals.
That's right. So you really need to see this to fully understand it, because he starts to see people. It looks like this is gonna sound so weird. It looks like they're smoking, not like smoking, but like smoke coming out of their ears.
He even mentions like a cartoon, like smoke coming out of the ears.
But it's not. But it's like colorful. I mean, it looks like, kind of the colors on this cover right here. It looks like there's all these different colored smoke coming out of their ears or something like that. But only he can see it. He's like, what in the world is going on? And it just gets weirder and weirder from there.
It gets weirder for him. The book, when it starts out, is more towards this style down at the bottom. Like it's its own style and everything. But as it goes along, it's almost like his world is melting into color. Like, there is even a moment where he's kind of like, I can't even tell like what's a building and what's a person, and it gets really extreme.
Yeah. There's no explanation for it. I do think it does seem like he's maybe possessed or something by some kind of alien entity. But I don't know. We don't know. I mean, I'm sure it'll get explained as it goes on. But
this would be a hard book to spoil, because we
don't
completely know what's going on. And that's on purpose. I've read this twice.
Yeah.
When I first read it, I was like, that just completely, I don't know what's going on. And then I reread it with the context of the full thing, and I started to see kind of the shape of the story. How, because when you first read it, you're just kind of overwhelmed by just what you're seeing and everything. But rereading it, I really understood the finesse of the storytelling and the gradual progression of whatever is going on with him.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that. So we read a digital copy of this several weeks ago, and then we read the physical version just recently, and I didn't realize the first time around that he's actually hearing a voice talk to him.
Yeah.
I didn't even pick up on that the first time. So this is one that you might want to read a couple times. Maybe read it, on New Comic Day. Maybe give it a day to process. Maybe go back and read it again, because just like you said, I definitely did pick up on more things the second time through.
Yeah.
So, and if you took the logo and the DC logo off there and handed this to me, I would think that this was a really cool, like, creator-owned book from Image.
There's almost no, superhero to it.
Yeah, there's nothing like that.
It feels like a creator-owned Image book or some kind of indie publisher.
But that's not a bad thing. I mean, it reads really well. It doesn't feel like anything else from DC right now. Visually, it doesn't look like anything else from DC right now. But that's what I think makes it really cool. It's very unique. It's very much its own thing. I do look forward to seeing it develop, and
where this leaves off feels like maybe we'll actually get some answers, or some clarification in the next issue. That I'm very excited about.
Yeah. So I know, we've talked about how weird it is and trippy and out there, but We both agree this is still very good. It's one of those books that has you, when you're done reading it, you don't just put it back in the bag and forget about it. You're still thinking about it long after you're done reading it, and I think that is a sign of a great book. So I still very much enjoyed this. Look forward to learning more about what the heck is going on. It's neat. And I do recommend, if you can, to pick up a physical version. There is something in the back on the last page that does not translate to digital.
Right.
But if you have the physical version, which I forgot to look at it, but it's very cool.
It's
but
interactive.
Digitally, yeah, it's interactive, but digitally it doesn't work at all. I mean, you get what they're trying to do, but you don't get to see how cool it is.
Yeah.
So yes, very out there, but it is very good.
Yeah.
We do like it. We do think it's good. So there's our A cover right there, and we got some really cool covers for this too. I like this one. This is Albuquerque, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of gives you a good look at
maybe
whatever it is, because we don't really get this good of a look at this in here. You don't really get that. So don't know what that is really.
And I do know that Denise Camp talked about that's not the only form the Martian Manhunter or even whatever he is is going to take, because I do think he's going to be able to kind of morph Play-Doh-like.
Yeah, that would make sense. So there's that one. I like that. Was probably my favorite one. There's a blank sketch variant. We have I feel like I should know this one too. Oh yeah, Marcus Martin cover there. I like the colors on that one. This one is Gillum March.
It feels like the whole time like you're walking through an art gallery.
Right.
And you're seeing some really crazy...
When you see it, when you read it, all the stuff we're saying will make a little bit more sense. This is the one that I pre-ordered. This is the foil logo variant, but unlike all of the other foil logo variants, this has, a bunch of color and pattern to it. All the other ones have just been like a solid background with the logo. There is also the foil virgin variant of the A cover. You can see right there, they look the same. And we have the 1 in 25 David Aja cover that we're selling for $19.99. We have the 1 in 50 Daniel Warren Johnson. Oh my gosh, how did I not know that? $34.99 is what we're selling that for. Daniel Warren Johnson could do no wrong. That one looks really cool too.
How much money could we throw him to do an absolute book?
I just, next time I get a new job, I'm just going to put in his bank account information as my direct deposit. And we have a 1 in 100 blank black and white variant that we're selling for $89.99.
Which is so weird to see because so much of it is about color.
Oh yeah,
and that's just like a whole different cover.
Yeah, this issue is very color heavy. It's all about the colors and what they represent and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I know this is the book that people have been talking about the most.
Yep.
And thinking about and being like, oh, I'm really looking forward to that one.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully it doesn't disappoint because, it's a little jarring at first. And by the time you get to the end, you're like, that was awesome.
Yeah, and it might be, so Absolute Flash #1 came out last week. And it was really good, but we kind of said the same thing. Lots of different questions, right? Well, Andy and I actually had the opportunity to read Absolute Flash #2 already. And it was with that issue that I was fully hooked. I was like, oh, #2 of Absolute Flash. That's when things start to really make sense. And so I'm thinking that might be the case here too. Maybe this next wave of book, because we've read Absolute Green Lantern #1 and had some questions after that too. So maybe this next wave is like, you actually need to give it 2 issues before you really start to sink your teeth into it. So
yeah, we'll cool note, a lot of the books from DC this week have some preview pages of Absolute Green Lantern.
That's right.
Which comes out next week, but still you get a little early taste of it.
And that was our favorite of the 3 new ones. The Green Lantern one I thought was the coolest. Although Absolute Flash #2, that was really good.
Now, it's like now the second issues are coming out. It's like, oh, it's starting to not become as clear which one is going to take it away.
So all that to say, with this new batch of Absolute books, if you're unsure about the first issue, maybe give them 2 issues before you make a full decision.
Well, finally, my
turn.
I actually got a chance, since the books came in a little bit later, to read a couple more than Matt did. And I am so excited to talk about Absolute Wonder Woman issue #6, because this is doing kind of what Batman is about to do, where it's going to have like a little 2-issue, what would you call it?
Just a little
interlude?
2-issue. Yeah, kind of, because it's different different artists
It's
on
different
all of
artists,
them
and
before the main one comes back.
yeah, it's very cool that this was planned because
Right.
it does kind of give you a breakup between the big story arcs, but also kind of highlight some different artists and some stories that maybe aren't as super big as the main ones, but you do get a little bit more flavor to the
Mm-hmm.
Absolute World. This one is awesome. This may be my favorite issue of Absolute Wonder Woman so far. This is still written by Kelly Thompson, but the art in this is by Mattia Del Luis, and the closest I can compare their art to is almost like Jamal Campbell on Zatanna,
Yeah.
or maybe an Esad Ribic from his Thor run.
It kind of, I didn't get to read this, but I did see a few pages. It kind of gave me Evan Cagle vibes from New Gods right now.
Yeah, it's a little bit more.
Like,
It's less.
like it's more painterly, maybe,
More painterly,
but still it's
less
clean lines.
cartoony,
Right.
thinner
Uh-huh.
lines. But this is definitely it. Yeah, it did feel a lot like Jason Aaron and Esau Ribic's Thor because this is very mythology heavy.
Yeah.
And what's cool about this, so this is called The Lady or the Tiger Part 1. It's going to be a 2-part story.
I'll take the lady.
Yeah. Is that the option?
Yeah.
So in this, it's kind of not, you're not positive when this exactly takes place. I mean, I guess it could be after the end of the previous issue because she got pulled down a hole in the ground, right? At the end of.
Yeah, is that? Oh, but I think that is for the next big story arc. So maybe this is before.
I'm not sure. Anyways,
I mean, does she? Do you see her at the beginning falling from a
no,
hole?
but
Okay.
she is in a place that is very cave-like.
Huh.
But Wonder Woman is in a location facing off against, not facing off, but confronted by a god that she clearly kind of knows or whatever, but we're not sure how she got there or why either she found herself there or the god summoned her there. But what's really fun is basically this god has a little henchman, and he says like, "Did you take all of her weapons away from her?" And he goes like, "Yeah, look, she doesn't have any weapons." And he's like, "Everything she's wearing is a weapon." And then you see like her take off the tiara and everything. And he's like, she's got a pouch that has tons of weapons. Empty that pouch or whatever. But she does pull out her the red lasso, which is the Nemesis lasso, and
that was the first lasso we saw her use.
I believe so. And I won't say what happens with it, but he learns very quickly there's something unique about this, and he's like, "Tell me, where's this lasso from?" Because clearly this guy knows Hera, her mother, or Cersei, her mother, and knows that her hand is in this, and he's basically like, "Tell me about this lasso." And so this is the story of the lasso and how it came into being and how it got the powers that it has. And it's a very high mythology. You see other mythological creatures, gods, demigods, that kind of thing, as you learn what went into crafting this lasso. I don't want to give away too much, but there's 2 key ingredients, or at least 2 kind of almost like Hercules' labors that Wonder Woman had to go on that Cersei put her on to get the pieces for this lasso. I will also say maybe you see the first meeting of Wonder Woman Pegasus, which is very fun. I don't want to give away too much more than that, but this is really cool. Very kind of what I wanted from a Wonder Woman book that's just rich in mythology and epic scale and scope of characters. And this has something really cool. There is 2 short stories at the end of it by Kelly Thompson, and the art is by Dustin Nguyen, called Little Diana. And it's if you're familiar with Dustin Nguyen's art, like Ascender and Descender, that kind of stuff. It's what it looks like, and it's little adventures that Wonder Woman had while she was in hell. From kind of there, it's a story of absolute Wonder Woman, but little.
Yeah.
And her.
Did he do a series of that, Little Gotham, or and that wasn't him, but
Yeah, he did. He did some of Little Gotham.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's less like they're adults but squatty. This is actually Wonder Woman
Okay.
as Diana as a young girl, but her interacting. You see kind of like, even though this is a darker version of Wonder Woman, that she still has the compassion, the love for nature and animals and all of that. You see her with some cute critters and that kind of stuff. That's really really fun. So definitely recommend. It's a pretty drastic shift in art style from the previous run, but for these two issues, I think it's going to be very cool and very welcome to see kind of a new interpretation of Absolute Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
So we've got our A cover right here. You see that Nemesis lasso. We've got a couple of variants for it as well. So we've got, this is the Sway variant. Very cool. You've got a Jenny Frison variant, which we're so used to seeing her do like your traditional Wonder Woman, that's cool to see this kind of red-eyed version. We've got the one that I got. This is the Sean Gordon Murphy variant, which is very Frazetta Death Dealer.
I hope that's the one I pre-ordered. I don't remember if it was or not.
And there is some clues on here to what she may face off with in the story. Here's a good idea of some of those backup stories. This is the 1 in 25 Declan Shalvey, not Declan Shalvey, Dustin Nguyen variant. We're selling for $14.99. That's Lil Diana, and that's what the stories look like. Even those like weird eyeball bats and stuff, those are all in there. And lastly, we have a 1 in 50 of the Virgin version of the Sean Murphy that we're selling for $29.99. Just what a great week for comics.
Oh my gosh, we're not even done yet.
Nope.
All right, so I've got a new book from Image called We're Taking Everyone Down With Us. This is written by Matthew Rosenberg. The art is by Stefano Landini. And this is about a girl. Her name's Annalise. She's 13 years old. And her father is a very important scientist working on things that he claims will save the world. But it kind of comes at the expense of him being a pretty lousy father. I mean, I don't think he's not like mean to her, but he's very, doesn't pay much attention to her, right? So he has a slew of robot servants that do take care of her daughter, and they kind of play with her and things like that. Like they're her parents really, when he should be. But one day, Annalise actually does get through to her father and convinces him to play hide and seek with her. So he says, hiding's for cowards. I'm going to seek. I want to find you. So she goes and hides in the basement of their house, which she has been given strict instructions to never go into the basement. But she does it anyway. And when she gets down there, she finds something that's very alarming. And I don't want to tell you what it is, but I will say that kind of, when she finds what she finds in the basement, that kind of opens up the story, and that's actually what the whole second half of the issue is about. Is, oh my gosh, I found blank, what does this mean, Dad, what are you into, that kind of thing. And I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying not to spoil too much, but I will say, when it's all said and done, she ends up finding herself, and this is kind of the crux of the entire series, is that through a matter of circumstances, she winds up alone. Not like alone in a room, but like alone with only one of her father's robots with her. And the solicitation tells us that after all, once all this happens, she is going to possibly overthrow the established world order. I have no idea what that means.
It doesn't feel like in this issue that's the trajectory.
Right, yeah. I mean, it doesn't seem like that that seems much more grand than what this issue is, but I guess that's why you have to read the story, right? So, and I know it sounds kind of weird. Like, I really want to tell you about the second half of the issue because that's really where the meat and potatoes of this issue is, but I don't want to spoil it. But there is a big old mystery, and it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? We need to find out more about her dad. There's more mystery there, and that's going to lead into her overthrowing the established order. I guess he's into some really big heavy stuff. I'm not sure, but we'll find out. So I very much enjoy this one a lot. I want to know more about the mystery that they've set up, and can't wait to read more. So we have our A cover right here, and we have this. Did they put the? Oh yeah, this Mattia de Eloise. He did a cover.
That's the artist on Wonder Woman.
Was that the interior artist?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
that's kind of what the interior of Absolute Wonder Woman looks like.
Yeah, it looks really cool. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. Good mystery that they're setting up.
Well, I've got a very exciting one. This is Superman number 24, getting ready for the, after reading this, very big issue 25 to come. And man, this is a very important issue for the entire run of Superman. A
Yes.
lot of things that you didn't even really know were questions are answered in this. So we do have some guest artists on this. We have Eddie Barrows and Eber Ferreira. And in this, Superman and Superwoman get called to Supercorps, a lot of supers, to see some projects that Mercy Graves, who's kind of the runs the day-to-day operations at Supercorps, have been working on, only to find out that they're kind of pseudo weapons. They're like they look like, oh, they can be used for good things, but
Yeah.
also, I mean, it's like scary spider robots, but all have the Superman logo on them.
Right.
And she's like, well, we are we're Supercorps. The Corps stands for corporation, and we have employees we have to feed.
Yep.
We have to sell stuff. And Superman's like, I really am not comfortable with this, especially that like the technology you're building could be used for bad with basically my name on it. And she's like, well, the tech that Supercorps creates have actually saved a lot of lives. Like during it basically is like the
There's like a teleporting thing that they use in absolute power.
yeah, to like get people out of places, or part of it was they helped build the Just Like Watchtower. It's like, yeah, like there can be good stuff too. And Superman's like, I don't know about this. Well, at that moment, they get a call from Mr. Terrific, who says, hey, over in Markovia, which is a location we saw during
it was an event Leviathan.
Event Leviathan,
and it kind of got messed up during that story.
Says, hey, there's some aliens that have like come from space and made camp there, and we're kind of like I think Mr. Terrific says like we've got some, maybe not the biggest heavy hitters.
Yeah, we're missing some big hitters or something. We could use you. Yeah.
And Lois, Superwoman, is like, I can do that. This can be my first Justice League mission as Superwoman. And, Superman's like, okay, I'll deal with this over here. You go deal with this. And so that's where this is, what's it called? A War on Two Fronts. You get these two stories about Lois, which is really fun because when they say they don't have the heavy hitting teams, it's some heroes, but they don't have the firepower that like a Superman or Superwoman have.
Yeah, it's not Superman and the Captain, and no, it's not the big guys.
When you see who Superwoman teams up with, it's really cool, and it's basically the weirdest kind of Brave and the Bold type team up ever. But there's some interesting things they learned there. All the while, Superman on the other side, learns a bit more about what's going on at Supercorps. And I won't say how, but maybe these two stories are related. And there's a final page reveal that is what makes, what's coming up in issue 25 even crazier. Mm-hmm. Where, the lid's off, the doors are open, some crazy stuff coming in Superman.
I will say that in the day and age of solicitations, and everybody goes and looks out the solicitations and reads the summaries of books that are coming out months ahead, this book had 3 in a row page turns of things that I did not see coming.
Yeah, like almost in like increasing like surprises.
I was sitting here. I read it right before we started recording this. I was just sitting here reading it, and you were watching me when I got to the part, and I turned the page. I said, "Oh." And then I turned the page again. Oh, and I turned the page again. Whoa! Like in a row, 1, 2, 3. I didn't see any of these things coming, which is pretty rare nowadays. Usually, you kind of know. I had no idea, and like it's more than just like, oh, weird, that character showed up. No, there's some big stuff in this.
Yeah, it's some big stuff, and stuff that goes all the way back to issue 1 of this run of Superman, where you go, oh, this is the big picture here. So yeah, now I cannot wait for issue 25.
Oh my gosh!
But issue 24 is fantastic as well.
Issue 25 I think is going to be oversized. It's on FOC this coming weekend. We're going to talk about it on Comics from the Future on Friday. It's a big one, And I really hope you guys can avoid spoilers on this. I know Bleeding Cool is going to spoil it at like
Yeah.
6 a.m. tomorrow, probably, but I really hope you can avoid spoilers because I really was shocked 3 times in a row.
Yeah, just super cool. Can't wait for everyone to read it. So there is your A cover. We also have a David Nakayama cover with Superwoman, who has some awesome moments. I like seeing her out on her by herself, not with Superman, where
Yes.
she can kind of call some shots in the Justice League and stuff. We also have a Romero cover. This is one of the sports ones, the basketball ones. That's it's not fair if he's on your team.
Right.
And we also have a Bracetti variant as well.
The longer I see, or the more I see of Lois having these powers, the more I get excited because we know where she got those powers, and we know that that's going to eventually lead to some kind of big crazy story. And I just feel like the more she has it, the bigger that story is going to be whenever that comes. All right, so I have another new book from Image called "You'll Do Bad Things." This is written by Tyler Boss, and the art is by Adriano Tortolici. And this is centered around a writer named Seth. And he wrote a best-selling true crime book 10 years ago about a man who brutally murdered 13 children. But ever since he wrote that book 10 years ago, he hasn't written anything else. And he's excuse me, he's basically just getting by on reprints, and they put like new covers on and resell them and that kind of thing. His publisher is hounding him, give me the new pages of the new thing you're working on. And he's like, yeah, I'll get them to you eventually. And he doesn't want to write about true crime anymore, even though it was really lucrative for him 10 years ago. He doesn't want to do that anymore. He's trying to write a romance novel. But he has this problem, and it's not, he's having trouble writing it, and it's not because he has writer's block. Because it's this thing where, and he recognizes it too. He realizes this is going on. He says, every time that I try to write a nice romance novel, something fun and upbeat with, these characters, I always end up writing these characters getting murdered. Like, I just can't stay on the happy path. It always goes dark. So, he's trying to deal with that. On top of all that, in the real world, the fictional murders that he kind of sort of unintentionally writes, but he finds himself ending up writing these murder stories. Those murders are starting to happen in real life, which is strange because it's never been published, right? It's just him. So don't really know what's going on there, but it's really cool. So you got a couple different things here. A big mystery of why does he always go back to these gruesome murder stories, and they've never been published. So how are those same things happening in real life right now? And there's a cool, the way it shows it near the end is like it shows the murder happening, and it also shows what he's writing in the book, and it lines up perfectly. It's like, how is that even a thing? I don't know. So really cool, another really cool mystery in this book. I like this one a lot. And this is the only cover that we have, but I like that one quite a bit.
So next up, another heavy hitter. This is Justice League Unlimited number 5. And let me tell you, this is another super awesome book because I'll get into it. But in this, it starts in Sydney, Australia at a G20 summit of world leaders who gather to work out world economic issues. And of course, the Justice League know this is the prime place where Inferno, who they've been going up against for this whole run, would attack. Like, you've got all these people gathered. So they have some key Justice League members stationed there trying to prevent this. And of course, they're all on heavy watch. You've got like Supergirl there. And I will say, there is one person there who is a member of the Super Friends. That their first appearance, I believe, was in Super Friends number 11 from 1977.
Nice.
That I don't know if I've ever read in a comic anywhere. So that was really fun when I looked it up. I was like, oh, but that's kind of the Justice League Unlimited.
Is it Marvin or Melvin? What was his name? They had the teenage sidekicks.
No,
yeah.
No, it's someone that does have powers.
Okay.
But they are on heavy guard. You don't have Batman there. I do think Superman's there, but they're all on the lookout. When suddenly doesn't matter, they're on the lookout. They are all in an instant now in a strange, weird, like floaty asteroid dimension full of monsters, and not just the Justice League, but also the world leaders and stuff are there too. One of the big characters is Flash and Impulse.
Oh, nice.
Which this book has a lot of Impulse in it, which
I haven't seen Impulse in forever.
Which is also cool because Mark Waid had a long run on Impulse, and he even does some of the things where Flash is kind of a little like, Impulse, you're kind of getting in the way here. And Impulse looks at him, and his speech balloon just has a picture of Flash with a wet blanket on. And so it does some of those like visual gags with Impulse. It's really cool. But Impulse has a big thing that happens to him in here, which is really cool. But they're transported to this weird dimension, and suddenly, the Justice League are all on like, hey, we've got to protect these people while we're trying to figure out what to do while we're here. But how is this connected with Inferno? Did they cause this? I will say that some big stuff happens this, like you do learn the identity of Inferno, of the group. First you see one member, and then you see the rest of them. But even saying that, there's still a lot of questions about how and why and all of that.
I know you had a theory about who they were. Don't tell me if you were right or wrong, because I haven't read this yet. So don't tell me, because I was going to ask were you right, but don't. If you're right, then I'll know. So don't tell me if you were right or wrong.
I will say they do a good job in this also of saying something to kind of confirm one thing, and then when you see the end, you go, well, they just said it couldn't be that. So Mark was definitely playing with this, like, how is any of this possible?
Okay.
In a very cool way, but I'll leave it at that. Very cool though. You've got this great cover with you got the Legion of Doom there, which may or may not make an appearance. The solicitation talked about like maybe the Justice League have to go. Maybe things get so bad they've got to turn to the Legion of Doom.
Well, and we know the next issue is the second part of the We Are Yesterday crossover with World's Finest. Did this kind of? You said this kind of teases that a little bit, or kind of leads into
that? It does, like, especially at the very end. It says like story continues.
Okay.
I have not read the part one of the We Are Yesterday thing, but from what I heard you talk about and everything, I do see how this is going to be connected.
Okay.
So, not that this is necessarily part one of that or part two or whatever, but it's going to. This story is going to be part of that. So, take with that what you will, but very cool issue. Here is your A cover. We also have a Jenny Frison variant. Got two Jenny Frison Wonder Womans this week. We got this really cool. This is Salvador LaRocca with the classic Legion of Doom and their hideout that always looked like Black Manta's head rising out of the swamp. Yeah. We have a Mark Spears cover. We have a Nathan Zerdy variant. And that is it.
All right, well, we talked about Batman 158, Absolute Martian Manhunter. Now that we've gotten all the riffraff out of the way, we're going to talk about the real pick of the week here, which is Harley Quinn, Fartacular, #1. And actually, we didn't get a chance to read this. Like I said, these books just came in a few hours ago.
We did get a chance to read it, and it's polybagged.
So we can't smell it either. It does say on the cover that in this issue, farts, and it does say that there are artificial rub and smell farts in the book. So I don't know. It's polybagged. I mean, is it like, doesn't really smell it through the bag at all.
Not if you have to rub.
It's probably on the inside too. But yeah, we didn't get a chance to read it, but we know that everybody is going to buy this one. So this is we should have let off with this one.
Yeah, yes.
And then done Batman afterwards. But yeah, just want to let you know that this one is out because everybody is wanting this one. I don't have any variants. I don't think we got any variants, or maybe
I think there is a couple of variants, but they are also polybagged and everything.
Yeah. Okay.
So. Well, since you could have spent longer on that, but you're holding back. I'll talk about my next one,
I didn't want to spoil what happens in the book.
I think it's already spoiled. Rotten eggs. Next up, we've got Peacemaker presents the Vigilante Eagly double feature #1. This is going to be a 5-issue miniseries. This is broken into 2 parts in this. So the first part, the Vigilante part, is by Tim Seeley and the art is by Mitch Gerads. And the second part is the Eagly story written by Rex Ogle with art by Matteo Lolli. And this is really fun. So this is not technically part of the DC cinematic universe.
Like the Peacemaker TV show? Yeah.
But it might as well be because this is credited as consulted by James Gunn. So they actually worked the story out with James Gunn. So yes, I think it's like, read this. Don't think that everything in here is going to be referenced in Peacemaker or that it's,
just his own thing.
It's its own thing with heavily flavored Peacemaker vibes. Because in this, Vigilante is just like the Vigilante in the show. It is brutal, just like the show. Vigilante definitely has a hard time.
Oh, it's a black label too.
It's a black label, yeah. It's got the language, it's got the violence, all of that. Vigilante has a hard time understanding what people mean. If you watch the show, you get a little bit of that as well. He takes things a little too literally, and they kind of highlight that a couple of times. And he's the self-proclaimed best friend of Peacemaker. And one day he is out stopping these kind of 2 gangs from meeting up, and they are very silly gangs. But Vigilante gets in the middle of them. But something happens, and he goes, "I wonder where's Peacemaker." And in his head, he already starts going like, "I bet he's been taken captive." And so he calls Peacemaker on the phone, and clearly he's reading this all wrong because he's like, "I was calling. Have you been captured? Oh, it's because they're supposed to meet up to hang out that night, and Peacemaker's not home." And so he calls him, and he's like, "Have you been taken captive?" And Peacemaker's like, "Yeah, that's what happened." And he's like, "I bet it was this Bill." And he's like, "Yep. Oh no, he's coming through the door right now." And he's like, "I knew it." But what we do find out, and that's also kind of part of the Eagly story, is Peacemaker just forgot they're supposed to hang out, and he's going on vacation. But that's the wrong thing to do because now Vigilante has made it his job to hunt down and destroy anyone that stands in his way of finding out who took Peacemaker. And yeah, it is brutal. But the Eagly story is fun because it's kind of the Peacemaker story. It's they are on a plane heading to their vacation, which Eagly also has his seat, which is not right next to Peacemaker. It's Eagly and then a guy in the middle seat and the Peacemaker who is very freaked out by this eagle next to him. But of course, even on their trip, they're on their vacation, something super villain is going to go down, and I'll leave it at that. I kind of feel like the Vigilante part is like the big part of this, and the Eagly one is like a fun. It's more cartoony, whereas the Vigilante part is more like realism and overly violent and all of that. But I thought it was really fun, especially if you like the show. It hits all of those comedic beats of the show, and yeah, even though it's not technically part of the continuity of the DC cinematic universe or the Peacemaker show, it might as well be. So there is your A cover. And like I said, it's gonna be a 5-issue miniseries. We have this Dan Panosian variant where you see Eagly has the rules of your seat in the plane in his mouth. We have a Derek Robertson variant. Oh yeah, and also when you do, Peacemaker is going on vacation because he's really tired after fighting Nazi lizard men.
Okay, I understand that.
He does punch through their mouth and out the back type thing, which is crazy. There's also a foil variant of the Mitch Gerads cover. Do you have any more?
I don't have any more. I should have put a comic here just, for scenery. I guess I could just put this one up.
I think it would flop too bad.
Yeah.
You're like Wilson on Home Improvement. And lastly, I do want to talk about a not DC book, but one that is very cool. This is our next Universal Monsters book. This is The Mummy #1. And the art and story of this is by Faith Aaron Hicks. And this is really interesting because this definitely does take a genre tonal shift from the original source material, where the other one still remained horror. And this one does have touches of that. This almost feels like, not in a bad way, but like a young adult.
I thought you were going to say romantic comedy.
No, there is romance
Oh,
in
yeah,
it.
really? Okay.
So, this actually is the story of Helen, and in Thebes. In 1912, she was a young girl. Her parents worked, kind of like contracted on a dig site, even though I think her dad is British and her mom is from Egypt. Um, she's at a dig site and they have discovered a new tomb that is apparently cursed, but because you do see like a thing falls and just like crushes a guy's leg, and they're like, people don't want to dig here anymore. It's cursed. But as a little girl, she does find a kind of very interesting relic there that everyone else has missed. We don't follow up on that yet, but we do jump ahead to 1921 when she's 16. She's hanging out with her friends in Thebes, and they're typical 16-year-olds. She's got eyes for one of the boys there, and she really wants to impress him. And it's like, hey, we should all go to a club. And they're like, we're 16, we can't get in there. She's like, uh, uh, my parents know the guy who's the bouncer there. I bet we can get in. But of course that doesn't work out. They're quickly spotted as being 16. She's still trying to impress him. She's like, oh, let's go like to this dig site my parents are working on, which is, I believe, the dig site from the beginning. But what we do learn is at that moment when they get to the dig site, that is the moment from the Mummy movie when the guy reads from the scroll of Thoth, and awakens the mummy. But when she's also present there, something happens to her as well. And I'll leave it at that. That's only about like a third of the way through the book. But this is a really interesting one because your protagonist is a younger character. It's not like some monster hunting person or whatever. It's definitely a different take on the story, and I do appreciate that about these Universal Monster books, is they do, they're not just trying to replicate the original. They are trying to do their own thing. So it might not be for everyone if you're looking for just like scary mummy action, but it is a very interesting take that I think will appeal to a lot of people. So there is your cover, and that's what your interior art looks like as
nice.
well.
I like that.
There is some mummy in this, but not a ton of mummy. You maybe spend your money to get mummy. I don't know. And then we also have this. I believe this is the Joshua Middleton cover. So very cool. And that is it for our part 2 of our early comics review video. If you combine these, it would be longer than the majority of all of our
I was sitting here
others.
thinking, I cannot believe it's actually kind of good that we split them up, because this would have been one long video if we had all the Marvel stuff with this too.
And we wouldn't be able to talk about kind of the big things as much as we needed to talk about them. But thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully, again, twice in 1 week talking about the new comics. These are available on our website right now at infinityflux.net. Even some of the covers we didn't get a chance to show that weren't ready, and the incentives, all of that are on the website. And, they'll be up on the shelves tomorrow if you shop locally, or if far away, they're all there. Make sure to subscribe, because we have definitely put in some extra time here, and I think we deserve your subscription.
We deserve your click on that button.
But we, again, like we always say, we're so close to 4,000 subscribers, and that's awesome. We love having you all part of our Infinity Flux family. And yeah, great stuff coming up very soon. I can't wait to hear. Let us know in the comments. No spoilers or anything, but let us know what you're most excited about. And if you do read these, what your thoughts are. We'd love to talk about those. Maybe on one of our next live shows too, we can talk about just like, man, we've had some heavy hitting books recently. So I guess until next time, see ya.